So I'm here with author H.M.Naqvi, whose debut novel, Homeboy, had created quite a flutter in the literary circles. Can I call you a retired poet as well, or are you going back to poetry at some time?
Retired.
No chances of that part of your literary career?
It takes greater stamina to construct such dense words, thoughts, and it's a different sensibility. So at this time, I don't have the stamina for poetry. Perhaps in my old age, I might return to it.
Okay. Okay. What is happening with you post Homeboy?
After Homeboy, I had written several articles.
Yeah.
I had planned on putting together a book of non-fiction, essays on Karachi.
Okay.
But before I could make substantive headway in that particular project, I was stirred to start writing my second novel.
Okay.
So I've been working on that for about 3 years now.
Okay. And I should never ask a writer when is it going to be out, or what are the project completion deadlines and all. You can't do that, can you?
Writers it depends where you're in the process, and writers who are anxious about their project are wary about replying. I'm not particularly anxious. I feel that I have worked diligently and the material is exciting. I've been excited working on it. Wrapping it up becomes a fraught exercise. Towards the end, you aren't writing and you aren't even editing. You're kind of problem solving.
Okay.
And so that period can be fraught. But I think I'm on track. It took me about 3.5 years writing Homeboy, and I think it's going to take me about the same to complete the second project.
Is it important to constantly rework your draft? Your first draft is never really what makes it for publication. Does that hold true?
I think all writers work differently, and I don't work in drafts.
Oh, okay.
I have a daily quota.
Okay.
Of 300 words, and which is a very discrete quota. It's not more than 2 paragraphs a day.
Yeah.
I usually overshoot the quota, so
You would.
I can manage.
I would imagine.
400, but not by much, by
okay.
400 words
All
or 500
right.
words. If you keep a high quota, then there's a sort of incremental psychic cost, because if you don't meet it on a particular day, you feel that you have to make up for it the day after.
Okay.
So I have a quota of 300 words, a discrete quota, and so I don't move forward until those 2 paragraphs are in good shape. And so I don't write entire manuscript and then go back. I just
You keep polishing that.
keep polishing that
Okay.
that particular day's work.
Okay, that's a different approach. Also, HM, a lot has been said about Pakistani English writing. Still a few years back, we were talking about a boom. Now, how much of that has sustained, or was it a lot of? I mean, what is your take on that?
Indian writing in English took off circa early 80s.
Yeah.
There was sort of Rushdie and Seth and Ghosh, and that created a certain momentum. And that is what happened with Pakistani fiction by the late 90s, and that momentum continues.
Okay.
I think I know of 3 or 4 debut novelists that will have a book out within a year.
Okay.
So that momentum continues, and I think once there is momentum, it persists. So Indian writing in English is thriving.
Yeah.
And I think English writing from Pakistan will continue to thrive as well.
But who's your reader?
These questions were posed to the first generation of
Indian English.
Indian writers
They will
in
be
English.
posed to you as well.
And yeah, I wrote Homeboy because I happened to be in the States at a fraught period.
Yes.
And so and writing for me is a way of allaying my anxieties. So it was a very personal imperative. I didn't think that Homeboy would ever get published.
Okay.
Halfway through, I was ready to throw it away. So I didn't think about a reader then.
Okay.
This time around, I suppose I'm more conscious of a readership, but fundamentally, philosophically, I believe if you tell a right story, you will find a reader. If you tell a good story, you'll find a reader.
But through your narrative, are there issues that you are fundamentally addressing? Like, for instance, Homeboy was written in post 9/11 world, and there were issues that you were dealing with. So, are those thoughts that you dwell on when you're writing? Are those things important to you?
Yeah, I think I think rigorously about the world I inhabit. In that way, however, I'm no different from you or anybody else. The difference, of course, is that I collate these thoughts on paper. So the world that we do inhabit, our neck of the woods, which is the subcontinent, or the world at this juncture of history, is something that one is cognizant and aware of, and something that I channel in my novels. But again, if you aren't telling a compelling story, then these socio-political vicissitudes are irrelevant.
Okay.
We remember Chekhov because he told a good story, and Chekhov was very much a function of a certain age. He wrote about middle-class anxieties at turn of the century Russia, and so there is a topicality there.
Yeah.
But the reason that Chekhov is still read is because he told a damn good story.
Okay. But is it important for you at any level to set right notions about, Pakistan or Islam or that sort of thing in your writing? Does that play at all?
I sort of am not a representative of my state, or I'm not an ambassador. I'm a novelist.
Absolutely.
And so my concerns are more personal. They're they aren't. They don't have to do with the state narrative as such. And I also have, I definitely have very strong views on identity, on metaphysics, on religious discourse in the 21st century. I'm conscious of history, and so these are things that do pervade my work. Homeboy is fundamentally a comedy. You have to understand it is.
Yes.
It might be the only comedy written after 9/11 or contending with 9/11, but fundamentally it's a coming-of-age story. That in that way it's not much different from Huckleberry Finn. But so there is the socio-political ecosystem that novel inhabits. Is important, but it's not all the novel is about.
Okay. And as a writer, is it important? Is your geographical location important to where you're writing? I mean, right now you're writing out of Karachi. Does that play a part?
It has so far. So, I mean, if I wasn't in the States, during this fraught period, I would not have had the anxieties that produced Homeboy.
Absolutely.
And now that I am in Karachi, I have to contend with Karachi on a daily basis, and that permeates my writing. So it does matter where I am. You know, if I was sitting in Brussels or Vienna, I would have different concerns. And many people don't write that way. I mean, you know, many expatriates write about home, and many and some natives write about life abroad. I am sort of a creature of my of contexts, and so I need to rely on the infrastructure of a city. I would need to rely on the sensibility, ethos of a city. I am an urban animal, so cities fascinate me. And Karachi fascinates me, and my next novel is set in Karachi.
And also, how important is it? I mean, there is, of course, a boom in writing, in Pakistani English writing, but how important is it to have a homegrown publishing industry? Is that happening?
There's a thriving sort of publishing industry as far as Urdu goes.
Okay.
There's not yet a thriving industry for English language writing. But I think these things develop just as when Rushdie and Seth and Ghosh started off, there wasn't a thriving publishing industry in English in India. And so the momentum generates infrastructure.
Okay, and last few questions, how important is it for this to be accessible to the vast majority? Because now in India we've moved on to our second leg. You know, we have a lot of commercial fiction which is very accessible and which has a lot of sales. Now, how important is that?
This year, if I'm not mistaken, there was a medical thriller that came out by a Pakistani author called Breath of Death.
Okay.
There's chick lit that has come out. There is other sorts of genre fiction in the pipeline, which a police thriller is in the pipeline. Okay. So the scope is broadening, and so you know that is cause for excitement.
Okay. All right, so I'm just going to leave you with this. What is your plan of, what is your agenda for the next few days at Tata Lit Live?
I plan on sort of enjoying the sessions. It's fabulous to be a part of this literary festival, and it's fabulous to be in Bombay. I kind of really like Bombay. It's got an energy similar to Karachi in that it is cosmopolitan, it's by the sea, and it is, you know, there's colonial, it was constructed by a sort of colonial imperative. So I feel at home in Bombay, and I plan on eating oysters and green masala after I'm done with the literature festival.
Well, you have a session as well.
I have 2 sessions. One today on matters political, on the varieties and qualities of democracy. If I'm not mistaken, and tomorrow I have a session with Naresh Fernandez on cities, on a subject that it's close to my heart.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do have a good day.
Thanks.